Welcome back to Manufacturing Unscripted. My guests today are Mike Kubacki and Elliot Keas, both of whom direct a program with IACMI. Mike directing the Metal program and Elliot directing the ACE program. They explain more about their program as well as the outreach they do to K-12 school programs. We hope you enjoy.
This podcast is sponsored by Promus Incorporated, the leading provider of fully electric servo presses for manufacturing. Promus provides global support for pressing and motion control applications in multiple industries. With precise positioning and in-process force monitoring, your company will begin to see ROI on day one. Call 810-229-9334 or email sales@promusinc.com to speak with an expert engineer about your application today.
Welcome back to Manufacturing Unscripted. I'm your host, Peter Parsons, and today I'm joined by two guests from IACMI, Mike Kubacki from Metal and Elliot Keas from ACE, both of whom are the program directors. It's good to have you guys both here on the show.
Thank you, Peter. Great to be here.
Thanks, Peter.
So to get us started off, I guess, would you guys be able to give me a little bit of an introduction of IACMI and, what does that stand for and what do you guys do?
Sure, I can kick us off. Just IACMI stands for the Institute for Advanced Composites, Manufacturing and Innovation. We are a Manufacturing USA Institute. We are the middle ground between academia, university, and industry. We're trying, one of our tagline is connect, convene, and catalyze. So we help build networks, make sure we're all working together toward a common goal, which is bringing back advanced manufacturing into the U.S., or just expanding our capabilities to help with national security. And we do that through multiple efforts. IACMI has research and development side of the house, where companies can take advantage of some locations we have, help run research pool projects, or we have some equipment in Detroit, a large Schuler press that companies may want to use to run some R&D without having to shutting down their own production line. So we offer, there's several sides of the research and development side. And then there's a large workforce development component, which is where Elliot and myself come into play, mostly two of our largest workforce programs, Metal and ACE, where again, our goal now is to take what is available and ensure we have the trained workforce ready to handle the surge that's coming from the demand from the Department of War with future builds in shipbuilding and aerospace and defense in general.
Yeah, and I guess as we get started here, if we can just kind of go through and clear through some of these acronyms here. So I guess, Elliot, would you like to kind of introduce ACE and what you guys do there?
Yeah, so ACE, the ACE program stands for America's Cutting Edge, and it is a strategic effort behind workforce development, I'll say, amongst machining practices as well as composites and things around metrology and advanced manufacturing and robotics. So all of those different, I'll say, systems and those environments amongst manufacturing, the ACE program provides individuals the introduction and awareness and hands-on opportunity to get an accelerated learning opportunity to get them familiar with equipment and manufacturing environments and machining and composites and injection molding, things of that nature. Get those folks trained and ready to be effective amongst the workforce as it continuously evolves and the requirements and demand is forever changing, right? So the ACE program is here. The ACE program is here to provide individuals that kind of fast on-ramp opportunity if they don't want to work construction anymore, or maybe four-year university wasn't for them, right? Those individuals need a very clear path and accelerated learning opportunity so they can approach heavy industrial settings and be safe and effective and productive. So that's a little bit about ACE. I can go a lot more into detail, right? But
for sure.
As a whole.
I guess, yeah, starting out though, I mean, how does this compare to kind of like maybe like a typical trade school or something that maybe it's not the standard 4-year degree, but it's still kind of more specified to an industry. Is this kind of an even more specific offering, at least with the training?
Yeah, I think it depends on if we talk historical or forward looking, right? I think it really depends upon the demand we see amongst our partners in the university setting and the tech school setting, and how they communicate and engage with their industry partners in their area, right? So the ACE program and its focus is obviously early stage at a young age, K through 5, right? Start getting those younger generation individuals aware, but also their parents as well. But obviously tracking up through potentially 12th grade and going into their early stages of career, we some people can't afford to spend 2 years unemployed, right? They need opportunities to get into the workforce and get their hands involved in the general effort. So we partner with those 4 years, those 2 years, because those are critical as well. It's all critical towards the mission, is ensuring that we are filling whatever criteria and approach we need to, depending on demand and the manufacturing need. I'll say so. It's not like we're, I'll say, competing in a sense. It's just we honestly partner with individuals like 4-year universities and tech schools to ensure that while they are of utmost priority, so is getting people accelerated and trained and ready and aware, so that they don't think if they don't get a job, they'll have to drive Uber, right? There are opportunities out there that can get you to a 6-figure salary relatively quickly nowadays. So that's kind of that relationship, I'd say, between us and kind of your existing efforts and 2-year and 4-year and tech opportunities, and some of what you're even seeing in high schools now, which is phenomenal, because I would have loved the opportunity to get my hands on a mill when I was in 10th grade. That would have sparked all kinds of dangerous things for me. So yeah, that's how that relationship is, I'd say.
Yeah, and definitely before we get, I guess, too in depth on the ACE side of things, Mike, I'd love if you could kind of introduce what METAL is and what you guys are doing through IACMI.
Sure. Just a little bit more background too. IACMI was stood up by the Department of Energy a little over 10 years ago now, 11 years. But the ACE program came along, given a relationship with Oak Ridge National Labs. They created a tap test software that we helped, as was part of the original plan here, was to help disseminate that to the public, right? To train people on that software, which really allows you to look at utilizing the vibrations. You plug it into a software and it gives you a graph, and it says you're going to experience chatter here or not there, et cetera. So that allows you to maybe increase your speeds and feeds and get a little more out of your equipment and save some funds in the long run, just from being more efficient. So that is how IACMI got into the workforce development originally. It was the DOE was slowing down some of their activities, and the Department of War came out and said, this is a workforce development initiative, partner with Oak Ridge, et cetera. So we got started with that at UTK and Pellissippi State. That's how ACE kicked off, really set up in that, like Elliot mentioned, that quick online platform, and then followed it by in-person. A lot of success in ACE program.
Yeah, and that still is, I can say, because I'm relatively new to IACMI, right? But I know we'll get into that here in a little bit, but I'm still even heavily involved in conversations with ORNL in regard to some of the equipment they're proposing for heavy industrial. We all know at the end of the day, the equipment is only as good as it is able to run. And if individuals aren't trained and ready to get on this equipment and troubleshoot it, fix it, monitor uptime, et cetera, that is still kind of what's fueling our involvement. As there's innovation and improvement with the equipment approach, you still have to bring your workforce behind it and get it ready to support. So
yeah, for sure. Again, just building off the success of ACE and how quickly our network was growing, and how many students we were training. about 3 years ago now, a little over in June of 23, the metal program kicked off, which was take that same concept, the hub and spoke model, how to grow a network quickly, and begin training for the casting, forging, plate rolling, just metalworking in general industry, because it needs a lot of attention. And foundries, unfortunately, are on the decline, right? We lost 40% of them in 20-year span between '04 and 2024. Some of that work didn't go away necessarily, right? But some of those smaller shops that are really helping on the defense sector, we're starting to close their doors. So our goal is to help build up that industry in many different ways. So taking some lessons learned from ACE Metal, started with the online, in-person training, same format there. Penn State helped develop all of our curriculum. And then beyond just that portion, we also did a K through 12, kind of build the pipeline, right? Get into the younger generation. Some of our research showed, especially young girls, if they're not introduced to STEM activities and that career path choice by, I think it was fourth grade, it was pretty young, somewhere around that age, then they maybe never choose that as a path, right? They see teachers and some of those other things, which are great career choices and needed, obviously, but just the opportunities are there, and they weren't really being, I guess it wasn't getting the right attention it deserved, right? Or the right messaging. So that was part of Metal too, to reach in the K through 12 sector and try to talk about advanced careers in manufacturing.
Yeah. And then, sorry, just to interrupt though. So metal, is that just because it has to, it's referring to like foundries, forges, things like that? Or is metal itself an acronym?
It is an acronym, yes. It does stand for Metallurgical Engineering Trades Apprenticeship and Learning. As what I was getting into, there's many facets to metal, right? It's not just that online, in person. We have the K through 12, and then we have apprenticeship programs where we're helping industry. They have to hire the apprentice, but we offer some offset costs for training materials and some of those things. We offer support, technical support, getting their program set up, registering as needed, trying to do all the paperwork, take all the tough work out of the companies and let them focus on hiring and training, working with some partners, getting that related training instruction in place. We have some curriculum we can supply as well that we purchase from Goodwin Castings in the UK to help with apprenticeship. And then the last phase of metal, I'll just say quick, is internships. We also know that that's a good part of important from the engineering side, especially. So we have a partner that helps us place interns in industry. It's FEF, the Foundry Educational Foundation. So there's a lot going on in metal, a lot of different areas, and I know ACE is expanding as well with their follow-on and to reach in. But that's a really high level of the different areas. We can go into more detail as needed.
Yeah. I guess before we get too in-depth in the programs themselves, I would just be curious to hear about, for both of you, kind of how you found yourself in this role, kind of what through your career led you to this point. I guess, Elliot, if you want to start, I know you mentioned you're kind of newer to this role.
Yeah. So just got started actually going on 10 weeks ago. Gosh, time flies when you're having fun. So, I come from, I'll say again, heavy industrial manufacturing environment. While I was in school in Middle Tennessee, I was able to do a co-op casting experience, engineering co-op is what it is, at a tier 3 automotive casting facility in West Tennessee. That advanced me. That's originally where I fell in love, right? That's where I got down with the sickness, in a sense of being amongst a manufacturing environment, heavy, loud, musty. But the team, that's where I dove in. I saw that as the first opportunity to truly learn the process, I'll say. So that inevitably advanced me into a manufacturing engineering support role post-graduation for a Tier 1 automotive manufacturing facility here in the U.S., serving major OEMs, including General Motors, Ford, Chevrolet, some Subaru stuff, things like that. Did that for a little while, supporting again their casting operation and close by machining, I'll say, of said castings. that inevitably fed up the hill and went into the torque converters for that market. So did that for a little while. Later on, joined Oshkosh Manufacturing Corporation out of Wisconsin. They were doing some strategic initiative, moving some of their defense segment weld and fabrication for the Joint Light Tactical Vehicle for the DoD from the Wisconsin area down to the southeast region of the U.S. and Tennessee. So thought that DoD stuff sounded pretty cool. I like to weld and fabricate, so that sounded pretty cool. So got started with them. And then after some time working on under their defense segment, I subsequently took on and transitioned under their access segment, which hosts JLG Industries. So your scissor lifts, boom lifts, telehandlers, things like that. Where I most recently served as a chief engineer leader, overseeing roughly 600,000 square feet of manufacturing operation and supporting roughly 300 to 350 employees. So amongst that 600K, I'll say was things including robotic and manual welding operations, automated paint systems, autonomous material delivery technologies, capital project execution, obviously, and manufacturing cell design. So very primarily focused, I'll say. Safety is my number one priority. You will never change my mind. You will never convince me differently. Safety is always my number one priority, because an individual should feel confident that they're going to leave their job the same shape that they showed up in. And that should be everyone's number one goal, right? But amongst that, obviously, efficiency and productivity play their critical roles as well, but safety is forever and always number one. So did that for a little while, I'll say, and then up till about 10 weeks ago, IACMI reached out and was like, hey, we've got a much broader, wider, expanding vision and mission, and you've been amongst the environment, I'll say, and they really said we've got an opportunity to both patch and fix, I'll say, but also try and sustain and maintain. And we need somebody with your background to kind of address it and take it where it needs to go. So I said, sounds great. Packed up. Those folks I left them in really, really good shape. They're still doing fantastic today. I still check in on them every once in a while, right? Because they're a family. It ends up when you've got 300 people that you rely on, it's a family. So they're doing fantastic, but now I'm just fired up and excited about this opportunity to address the problem. So I'm excited to be here. Thanks. That's a little bit about me, I'll say.
Yeah, definitely. I can imagine it's a bit of a shift moving from, managing employees to kind of going in and creating these, school programs and, getting information, to a much different group of people than you might used to be working with.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it takes all kinds, first of all, right? But I've been around some fantastic folks, and everybody wants to work together. It's just how you get them to do that. That's the key there. But we're working on it. So, Mike, what about you, brother?
Yeah, thanks. So my background's a little different, and it involves really the reason why I'm so passionate about getting the word out about manufacturing in general, right, and all the opportunities it provides. I was that kid in high school that, grades weren't a problem for me. I was doing well in all courses, but didn't really love school. Didn't like getting up every day and going to school. Don't know what it was when I was younger, but that's just who I was. I didn't have a great desire to go to college just because I wasn't sure that's what I wanted to do, and trying to figure out some of those pathways, and wasn't really well communicated some of the different options, but eventually found my way into a manufacturing floor, and it was building hybrid microelectronics. I grew up north of Syracuse, so this is in central New York. And after doing some training and spending some different areas, started as an operator, worked my way around the floor, eventually found myself in the wire bond department, which is ultrasonic welding of mostly gold and aluminum wire. into integrated circuits and resistors, diodes, etc. So found my way there, built a career out of it, right? Kept showing up every day, kept working hard. We some new management, some different, we got bought out. We were a smaller company to begin with, a lot of space and defense work. Eventually, like I say, just worked your way up, became a supervisor for a little while, and then eventually process engineer because I was a subject matter expert in the wire bond field for the company. Did a little bit of quality engineering even for a short time. But again, able to build a career, feed a family. Eventually, when I did get the supervisor role, I started going back to college, which they paid for, within certain limitations, right? But I had no student debt. Able to, like I say, have a career that I could feed a family with. And then when everything started happening with the pandemic and whatnot, decided to move our family to Tennessee for the better weather, taxes, all the good reasons that Tennessee offers. And met some people down here, grew my network in a different way, and heard about this opportunity at IACMI, the metal program. I think IACMI's first full-time hire for the metal program back in October of 23. So I've been here going on 3 years now. And just like I say, I love the opportunity to be out there and spreading the message and sharing, right? That you don't have to be somebody special to be part of advancing human technology. I have my hands on parts that went into the Orion spacecraft. I was on the Artemis 2 rocket, flew around the moon recently. I know the goal is to get to Mars eventually. We did a lot of guidance systems for missiles, and just it's a sense of pride that I had building those products that I know help support our national defense, and like I say, also advancing technology as a whole. So it takes a lot of people, right? And that was specialized microelectronics, but all of those end products take a whole lot of metal being cast forged to the right near net finish, and then there's post processing, CNC machining, microelectronics, right? It's a mix of all manufacturing, and many different people have to work together to reach these huge goals. But it's fun to see it come to life. And like I say, my goal is to spread that word and get that awareness out to everyone, if possible, that these are great options.
Yeah. I think one thing that is pretty common with a lot of people is, in high school or middle school or whenever, not a lot of people have their heart set on manufacturing or, that kind of specific sector of the industry. So a lot of people, they just kind of, they either fall into it, they know somebody, and, kind of not completely intentionally. Once they're in this world, though, a lot of people, there's just so many facets to it. It's fascinating, and there's just so much you can learn and do about it. So definitely,
you're building really neat products. That's the fun part about it too. But yeah, I agree with you. It's just a matter of awareness and sharing the right details, because I didn't have a lot of guidance, I don't think, from high school level and whatnot, of different options in manufacturing and other things. But yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. I guess, is that something too that you've kind of brought to your program, is that idea of, this is what I wish I had in high school. These are the programs or the opportunities or the education, that I wish I had been exposed to earlier, just in terms of learning about the industries.
Yes, for sure. Those hands-on activities we talked about, and in metal specifically, because our K through 12 is a little more robust and built out at this point. We have multiple touch points throughout the student's life. So we have a K through 5 ACE Metal Foundations, which is STEM kits that offer hands-on activities to K through. Right now, it's focused in the K through 5 sector, and I think we have just about 100 schools lined up at this point that are going to be getting those kits in the next school year. So that offers an initial opportunity, right? Get some hands-on, just build a little rocket out of a paper and a pen, and maybe make some slime, just talk about different material science and some careers in manufacturing. And then in middle school, we offer workshops. So if we have a site nearby that's performing workshops, again, we're growing this network as we speak. Right now we have 15 training sites, and they all have some different variations in their statement of work, but a lot of them are offering workshops, which are 3-hour activity where they'll bust students in and they'll make something out of tin through sandcast, right? I have a little walrus I made myself. It's got a little, you can see all the details of the wrinkles and everything you can get out of it just from a little sandcast, a little flask and a mallet. And so that's fun. So that's another opportunity to talk about manufacturing, careers, and do a little hands-on activity. And then in the high school, again, these ecosystems are built around where industry is heavy, right? We look a lot in the Northeast for metal casting, and South, there's a few different areas, and we even have Cal Poly out in the West. But the last step for high school, again, is that we have FEF, that partner I mentioned earlier, Foundry Educational Foundation, is helping us build a high school network. So we have 100 high schools. So some students K through 5, again, right, get the kit. Middle school, they might take a activity and hands-on at a site, off-site. And then in their high school, they'll have a 2-week curriculum where they can learn more about metal casting. And really, I try to identify those students who are, you can see the ones, right? Their faces are lit up, they're asking questions, they're interested in the material. And those students, we have like a continuing the pathway where we say, oh, there's a university in your area offering a metal boot camp, right? Online curriculum. Take this. If you choose to, go see if it's something that really interests you. And then that gives you the opportunity to go pour bronze, aluminum, a little bit hotter metal. You get to see more of the bronze would be orange, right, when it's coming out. So you get to see that more of that manufacturing setting. If there's an industry tour available, often we'll take a tour of industry, or we have virtual reality headsets where we filmed at Ashland Foundry, Elwood Quality Steels, and McInnes Rolled Rings, where they can take the headset, put it on, and see what it's like in a manufacturing environment to get a real feel of what that looks like. So try and debunk some of the myths, right, by providing actual data and showing them what it looks like. So those are the multiple touch points. And then beyond that, they have more opportunities for deep dive, which is more dedicated to industry. So if we have like a sand science boot camp, high pressure die cast, some specific topics where we go deep in a deep dive. Whereas metal level 1 is broad, not too deep. It kind of covers everything from heat treatment to gray iron, ductile iron versus gray iron, et cetera. Talks about tensile strength testing. Like I say, you get to pour 2 different types of metal. They're both non-ferrous, but that's the high level, again, metal from K to gray, we call it.
Yeah. And I mean, you mentioned that there's like a network of like over 100 high schools. I mean, if you had to estimate, how many students are you really able to reach with these kind of programs? We started building that up about 2 years ago, and we've just started getting the data rolling in now that it's set and all the high schools have the equipment and the teachers are trained, and we've reached over 3,500 students at this time already. And that, like I say, that network's really only been operational for a little less than a year. So we're hoping to see big numbers out of that and keep that going. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's just an impressive amount just to be able to share this information. I mean, I think a lot of times it can be difficult to really have a message, to get it out there, to get it spread, and just to kind of have that level of outreach, especially at this early point. And I mean, I can only imagine it's only going to kind of grow and expand from here.
Big continuous improvement person, right? As we gather lessons learned, we'll make changes and try to keep growing what works well. Go ahead, Elliot.
It has to. There is no if or can it or could it. We have to, because what we're seeing from a population trend and a retiree trend and things like that, we have to start getting folks aware, both the young age group sector, but also their parents. We've got to get that awareness up so that individuals don't shy away or fear away from the potential of being employed at these heavier industrial manufacturing scenes. So it's got to happen one way or another, for sure.
Yeah, I guess with kind of all the different programs that you've had, the different things that you offer, is there one of them that you really see kind of the most success with, at least in terms of getting people engaged and interested?
Yeah, I would say if any success is deemed like good success, because any outreach that we get, whether it is online participation or if it is on-site boot camp participants, any effort we can achieve to get folks more aware is a success in my book. Now, I do think we see, again, in regard to regions and their specialty and the folks that are down the road from them and what they have going on, that's where we see program-specific success, I'll say, amongst the different pillars and efforts in composites and with machining and advanced manufacturing and robotics, et cetera. We see various success. Everybody's doing a fantastic job. I mean, if we reference the historical 5-year performance, it's awesome. I mean, just knocking it out of the park. But at this point, like, we can't let that flame go out. It's not over. We're not done yet. Like we're just now getting started. We've still got a mission. We've still got a vision we've got to go after. How do we continue to make this big of an impact over the next 10 years, 15 years? Because it's a big problem and we got to fix it. So any success is success, but it's really dependent from a program perspective on what individuals are specialized in amongst the different southeastern region, and I'll say overall eastern region of the U.S.
Yeah, just to add to that and try to answer your question a little more directly, I'd say really the boot camp is one of our best measures of success.
For
it's
sure.
Not just the amount of people, but just the experiences and all the different stories we've already recorded of we've had people take a boot camp, and we've had students, engineering students even, that never ran a drill, right? They just don't do the hands-on activity. I know when I was growing up, computers were fascinating. They were new, right? I was born in 85. So computers coming out when I was even 5-6 years old, everything was a lot slower than it is today, but it was relatively new, starting to become affordable. And, gaming and all those things were so different, but it was exciting and new. And now I just see these kids, including my own. I have a 10 and 13-year-old who spend a lot of time on computers throughout the day, and they're not doing as much hands-on. So anytime we have the opportunity to offer that hands-on curriculum, which not only teaches but inspires these students, I think that's really the biggest win for us right now. And again, we look to continue to grow that. But our main goal is really to have industry be the one impacted the most, right?
Yeah.
So the boot camps are great. They help industry. You can use it for onboarding for a new employee who doesn't know much about the process or metal casting as a whole. But like I say, eventually that goal to help industry involves more curriculum that we're coming up to speed to allow that a la carte choice, right, where they can send someone to learn more about sand science, like I say, resin bonded sand versus green sand, particle count, all of those things, or the deep dive into high pressure die cast. Like I said, some of the options that we have. But that boot camp, the hands-on experience, definitely is our most successful endeavor.
Yeah. I'd just like to add to more directly. I'd say the most success we see is when we do have boot camp participants at the end of these boot camps getting the opportunity to interact with direct industry in their area. We do have lots of career fairs, job fairs, as our partners reach out to industry partners in their areas. They are making that connection and getting them on site to host a quick job fair at the end of these boot camps, so that folks already are making those direct connections to those industry partners in their area. And that's something else, again, we're primarily focused on.
Yeah, definitely. I can imagine it's one thing, to be given insight on a certain industry, but then another to kind of have that direct connection of, not only is this an area that you now have a lot more education on, but, here are the companies and here are the positions, having that direct view. And I think for a lot of people, especially kind of the way that our standard educational system is set up, it's kind of, you're kind of put on these tracks, you take the general classes, you kind of get funneled into getting a 4-year degree, and there's not a lot of access to these kind of alternate career paths, these other ways to, work in different industries to, find these areas that you can have, such a huge impact and such an importance just within these companies. What's up, Peter Pals? Having 2 guests on our show meant that we had twice as much conversation, so we've decided to split this episode up into 2 parts. We hope you'll join us next episode where we continue this conversation with Mike and Elliot. We'll see you then.
This podcast is brought to you by Promise Incorporated, hosted by Peter Parsons, produced by Lauren Rawl, and mixed and edited by Ben Parsons. If you have any questions or would like to appear on the podcast, please reach out to podcast@promiseinc.com. Thanks for listening.